Alright, we're going to do video myths and facts about adoption. Here's the YouTube title, Layla Holcomb. And let's go. Now, Nye asked me to take his comments on Facebook and share them. These are not my comments because I'm not adopted myself, but Nye, he's the one that wanted to share this with all of you, and so I'll translate it into sign language. There are many myths and facts about adoption, and that's what we're going to discuss today. And a warning for each of you watching, it may be difficult to take in if you are connected with adoption. The first myth is that all parents are angel parents if they adopt. And as you know, parents have all kinds of reasoning to either have their own children or adopt children. Some people who adopt, they do it out of love, wanting to make a difference. Sometimes it's because they've struggled to have children and they've tried IVF and all kinds of fertility options, and after struggling for anywhere up to 10 years, they decide, okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and adopt. Now, there's also some parents who are very good with adopted children. Sadly, those who are abusive to those children as well. So there's a variety of reasoning. Now, one myth is that all adopted children must come from awful home lives before they were adopted. Now, that's true in most cases, but not always, because you have to understand that these children could have come from a wonderful life beforehand. They could have had parents that died in a car accident, and afterwards, when they were in an adopted home, they could be abused by those parents. So it's not always a perfect, a horrible life beforehand and a perfect life afterhand. There's a variety of things that could happen to that child depending on their situation. So life can be complicated depending on where they are placed. So you have to understand that all children, no matter what their experiences, they can have negative and positive experiences. Another myth is that children who are adopted, as they grow up, they'll never have a normal life. They'll always have to struggle with challenges and issues. Now, the fact is that, first of all, we have to look at that word normal and see what that really means. Now, there's a lot of different ways to look at these children's lives, and how are we to know what will happen to them as they grow up? It's not fair to just look down on them in pity. It's not right. So, to predict what their life would look like, how can people go ahead and, decide what their future outcome will be just based on being adopted? There's many children who become successful in their adult lives, and maybe we need to look at society and what society is giving them. It's important to remember that society really values capitalism, which is the idea that you work hard, take care of yourself, where we need to raise awareness that there's also love and compassion that we can learn from disabled people. Another myth is that biological children and adopted children are exactly the same. Now, the fact is that they're very different in their life experiences and how they grow up. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, but we do need to recognize their individuality and not discount it by grouping them together. Now, Nye actually brought up this point because he did not share the same medical experiences as his adopted parents. And actually, he saw that biological children who shared the same genetics, their experiences were different. It turned out that Nye, when he was talking about his medical problems, he felt like his adopted parents really ignored his problems and didn't quite know how to embrace him and talk to him about it. And he noticed that his siblings who shared biologically with their parents were treated differently. Now, another myth is that, adopted children, they're just not grateful enough. They seem so angry and disappointed all the time. And the fact is that adopted children, they have a good reason to feel the way they do. And we have to embrace and love them as children, no matter what. Accept them for who they are. And these children, they may look differently from their family because of their background, but because of how they're treated, they may feel like they are different and excluded from their adopted family. So, while some families on the outside look good, it's their children that are dealing with a lot of things internally, and while on the outside they may look really good religiously and financially and everything looks perfect, it's really on the outside or on the inside where adopted children are struggling. And so it's really not up to the parents to decide how their children are feeling. And also for us outside looking in, we should not be tempted to judge, but we should give those children a chance to be themselves. It's the family who adopts. They're saying you need to really appreciate them for everything they did for you and for adopting you. How could you not respect them? It turns out that there's a myth that all adopted children are the same, but the fact is that there's so many different situations, perspectives, and outcomes that happen to each individual child. And as we discuss these things, we have to remember to be careful that if we're not adopted to... Now remember, I'm not the one who's adopted, it's Nye who's adopted. So thank you for sharing with me.